This is the 10 second edition news.
It's Breaking the News with Des Clark.
Clark, and this is Breaking the News, the show that breaks the week's news and asks four opinionated panellists to put it back together again. With me are four brilliant comics. On my right, we have Ria Lina and Gareth Wall, and facing them are Josie Long and Sam Lake. In the news this week, a historic library in Glasgow is reopened following a £4 million restoration, which started in July of 2022. The new manager of the Elder Park Library and Community Hub said the project took a particularly long time, mainly because they had to hammer everything really quietly. A reimagined BBC version of the classic story The Railway Children is to be set in Scotland. Though, to make it properly Scottish, it's now going to be called The Rail Replacement Bus Children. Oh, wait, breaking news. I'm just being told that one of our panellists is under investigation for placing a bet on the outcome of this week's show. As yet unnamed, but they are on the show this week. More as we have it. Right, you've met the panel. Let's crack on with round one. This is the Broken News round, where our teams have to guess two major stories of the week that have been mashed together into one single news headline. So, Ria and Gareth, can you tell me what this is all about?
MSPs are expected to pass legislation later which will allow a charge to be levied on
most of the manifestos
and introduce a ban on
promises made about the NHS, for instance. Of course, we're told that a lot of this can be solved by growing
single-use coffee cups and unsold consumer goods.
There are two stories in there. Gareth, any shout as to what our first story might be?
Well, I think it must just be general election in general.
Is the right answer. Well done.
No.
Yes, Gareth, the election rumbled on this week with a final head-to-head debate between Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer, as well as manifesto launches from the Alba Party and the Scottish Conservatives. However, the betting saga took up most of the column inches. And yes, I'm sorry, I'm now being told that four of this week's panellists are being investigated for placing a bet on the outcome of the show. Breaking the News host Des Clark has been reached for comment. We don't know where he is. We'll keep you posted on that as we go on. Well done in getting the right answer, Gareth. So what has caught your eye on the campaign trail this week?
They've been having a meme war. I don't know if you've seen, they've been, like, all the parties have been, like, slagging each other off on TikTok and Instagram. And it's the most embarrassing thing I think I've ever seen, because they're not built for that. You know, it's like making memes, that's for young people thing. And so when all the parties are doing it, they just sound like, I like the PlayStation. Do you like the PlayStation?
Campaign trail this week then, Ria. Anything caught your eye?
I mean, this is the craziest election, and yet the most boring, and yet the most unbelievable that we've ever had to live through. I mean, Reform UK's manifesto. They first of all, they didn't call it a manifesto. They called it a contract. They called it I don't know who's signing it, but it's not even either of those things. It's more of a mood board. But the most interesting thing for me, actually, was reading through the manifestos. The SNP actually want to attract more foreign migrants. They're the only party that do. Everyone else wants to get rid of them, and the SNP want to have more of them, which I think is great. You've got so much coastline, so many places for small boats to dock. I think that's great. And it's because of your worker-pensioner ratio is going to be much higher than it is down in the south. So in about 10 years, it's going to be 317 pensioners to 1,000 workers in England and Wales, but it's going to be 333 up here per 1,000 workers. And I was thinking about other ways of solving that in case the SNP don't get in. And I was thinking maybe you could go back to dying younger? I don't know.
I don't know what you've heard, but we are still dying younger.
Keep the good fight going, you're right about that. Josie, what about you? What's caught your eye on the campaign trail this week?
There is one person in the United Kingdom who's enjoying this election, and that is Ed Davey. Mm-hmm. The man is having the time of his life. And you know what? He's not going to get into government, but he will have completed a decathlon via stealth.
I love that. Sam, what about you? What a week it's been in politics. What's caught your eye in the campaign trail?
Well, it's got to be my gorgy babe, Ed Davey, just living his best life. Because I just love all of the PA stunts like they get him to do, because the others are far more serious. Like Rishi Sunak goes to a factory, or Keir Starmer goes to a school, and then you had Ed Davey just on a bucking bronco in Llandudno for absolutely no reason. And I read this in a poll this week, and I think this is so funny. They did a survey of Lib Dem voters, and 1 in 3 of them don't actually recognise Ed Davey. Like, they showed them a photo, and they were like, we don't know this man. And I just thought it was crazy that they were able to find at least 3 Lib Dem voters. That's insane.
I don't know if you caught this, but the Radio Times asked the leaders of the main political parties what they've enjoyed watching on TV recently. But what TV show should they be watching?
I thought this was crazy that they don't even see themselves. I mean, Rishi Sunak said Bridgerton. His answer was literally Bridgerton. And I go, oh, okay, so you're going to tell the nation that your favorite show to watch right now is about the British elite trying to marry for money? Like... It was insane. I personally would sit them all down in front of the Martin Lewis Money Show myself in order to help them learn how to budget.
Wise words indeed.
Ed Davey, I think that if I could choose something for Ed Davey to watch, it would be Gladiators, but I would tell him it was the election coverage. But he'd be like, oh, I tell you what, this Cobra's a real threat. Who's he standing for? Reform? Who's he?
Decide the Prime Minister by putting the two of them on those big platforms.
On the Travelator!
Yeah!
Oh, do you know, would it be worse than what we currently have?
Great suggestions there, and of course, we were talking about the election, which continues. John Swinney has hit back this week at accusations the SNP were using stamps inappropriately, saying, well, we have to write a manifesto on the back of something. Well done, Ria and Gareth. You get 2 points for that. It was the latest from the general election. Now over to you, Josie and Sam. What was the other story we were after?
So this is about the fact that what they're trying to encourage in Scotland is a more circular economy.
Yes, the Circular Economy Bill, which aims to reduce waste nationwide and grow the green economy, has been passed at Holyrood this week. Scottish homeowners could soon be issued with a fixed penalty notice if they put the wrong items in their bins under a new law. The legislation will ban the disposal of unsold goods, preventing companies from sending products which have not been bought to landfill. Yes, with the threat of fixed penalty notices, it seems local councils may want to use the stick instead of the carrot, which should, of course, both be put in your brown bin. Well done in giving us the right answer, Josie. Are you in favour of this legislation, then?
So I was actually one of the first people, there's a new scheme that I'm volunteering for, which is part of this circular economy thing. So what I do is I go around where I live in Pollock Shields and I help collect up electrical goods that are faulty, that do not work, and then we take them to Polmadie and I sell them at the boot sale. I love the boot sale, I'll tell you that for free.
That's the circular economy right there. I love that. Sam, what about yourself then? What are you thinking about this? Are you in favour of this legislation?
Yeah, I love circular economy. Can't get enough circular economy. If the economy isn't circular, do you know what? I just don't want it. Love Okay, full disclosure, I don't fully understand what circular economy means. When I first heard that term, I did think it was just a fancy way of saying coins.
I think it's exciting, this idea of a circular economy. One of the things that they want to bring in is that shops cannot send to landfill anything that hasn't sold. So I'm very excited about that. They're not allowed to throw away anything that hasn't sold to landfill. So now, instead of getting 50% off sushi at 7 p.m., I'm going to wait till 10 p.m. and go to IKEA and get a new kitchen.
OK, so we're talking about this new bill that's just been passed, and you can be issued with a fixed penalty if you put the wrong items in certain bins. Councils will have the power to do that. But what would you hand out a fixed penalty for, and why?
I would give a fixed penalty for people who do not use headphones on public transport, and that fixed penalty will be called the death penalty.
What a reaction that is. You've got them. Sam.
I'm a Cornishman, so I get very particular when people don't do this properly. So my fixed penalty notice would be for anyone who doesn't know the correct way to put things in the correct order. It's jam, then cream, then beef ragu, then the pasta, then the cheese.
So, Gareth, final thoughts on this to you. What would you hand out a fixed penalty for and why?
Maybe like slagging off dads to their face. Because as a new dad, that's happening a lot, right? And the thing I don't like about it is people do it as like a wee joke, right? So folk will go, oh, takes after their dad, which is usually when my baby does something weird or gross, right? Like my partner's mum was holding the baby one of the first times ever, and he did a huge fart in her arms, and she was like, oh, takes after his dad. I was like, I've never once farted in your arms, madam.
The model aims to ensure products, materials and resources are reused, repaired, refurbished and recycled for as long as possible, like the SNP have done with John Swinney. Well done, Josie and Sam. You get 2 points for that. It was the mashup of the latest from the general election and the passing of the circular economy bill at Holyrood. And at the end of that round, well done. The teams are all square. Now, much of our news is about public opinion, so to find out what stories people are talking about, we spoke to two friends of the show, writer and musician Vic Galloway and broadcaster Afia Hagen. So, Josie and Sam, what do you think Vic is on about here?
Take a drink. Go on, take a drink. You know you want to. But what should I have? A flute of champagne? A glass of Pilsner? Maybe a shot of Slivovitz? I know what I like. Forget your Chateau Neuf de Pape. Give me a bottle of Bucky.
Is this study about European drinking habits?
That is the right answer. Well done. Yes, a study looking at drinking patterns across Europe has found countries can't seem to kick their traditional drinking habits. It suggests there is little sign of shifting preferred alcoholic beverage, prevalence of drinking or boozing behaviours. It found clusters of drinking patterns like wine drinking in places like France, whilst another cluster was formed by countries with a high consumption of beer and low consumption of spirits like Germany. The main difference between the drinking cultures in Europe and Scotland is that in Europe having bars open 24 hours a day is a convenience, whilst here, it's a challenge. Well done at getting the right answer, Sam. What do you make of this study, then?
I think it's very telling. I mean, I know they said that if the UK were included in the study, that we'd be sort of like Germany, but I think the UK wasn't included because we'd be way too much of an outlier. We love a drink and we love it. I mean, like, I think there are some great British drinking traditions, for example, blaming your hangover on anything except alcohol. Because when I was a young boy in Cornwall, what we would do is we'd go have a pasty to line the stomach, and then we'd go out and we'd have about 13 pints of cider, and then we'd be sick on ourselves, and then we'd wake up the next day, and I would call my friend and I'd say, oh my God, do you think there was something in that pasty?
You know, we have beer before wine, fine, about mixing drinks. Actually, on the continent, it's the opposite. They have rhymes against mixing drinks. So in Germany, it's like Bier und Bier. Ja, alles klar. Wein und Wein. Nicht ist Wein. And then in France, don't worry, I've got loads. You're loving them. In France, I've got du vin. Et aussi du vin, tout va bien. Du bien, et aussi du bien. No, Pierre. And then in Russia, it's just vodka. Duh.
My favourite part of the study, though, right, was really eye-opening, because it was the line that said, we could have a life expectancy which is 2.5 or 3 years more if people, stop drinking as much alcohol. And that's not enough. That is not enough to make me stop. I've got a lot of sober mates, and hanging out with them for a day sometimes feels like 2 years, right?
Ria, what do you make of this study?
I'm torn, okay? I'm torn between being really angry and wanting to move to Canada. This is a study from the University of Toronto. And how perfect is it in Canada that this is what they're spending their research money on? Is looking at the drinking habits of Europe. I mean, we're trying to cure cancer. We're trying to understand menopause and women's health better. We're trying to discover new green technologies. And Canada's like, let's see what the old world does with beer. I'm so angry.
When asked how much they had drunk between 2010 and 2015, one Scotsman asked, do you mean the years or for 8 to 8:15? Yes, European drinking habits is the right answer. Well done, Josie and Sam. Right, it's your turn now, Ria and Gareth. What do you think Afia is talking about here?
British people have long been so good at this thing. I'm shocked, actually. Maybe we're becoming a nation of introverts, or maybe we realise the value of not wittering on. Without having this, how do we even make friends?
I think she's talking about how the British have lost the ability to do small talk.
Well done, Ria. This is the news that Britons may no longer be masters of small talk. As research suggests, 88% of us find it difficult and awkward to chat to strangers. The main concerns revolve around never knowing what to speak about, feeling self-conscious and worrying about saying something stupid. Reports of a reduction in small talk have been confirmed by one taxi driver after 2 hires in a row failed to ask if he was busy tonight. There you go, Ria. You gave us the right answer. So I'll ask you, do you think it's a surprise that we don't like small talk as much as we used to?
I think it's great. I think it means we've finally evolved as a nation. I mean, what is small talk? All it is the action of putting in loads of effort and achieving almost nothing. It's like the conversational equivalent of a Peloton bike.
Josie, what about you? Are you surprised to hear this, that we don't like small talk as much as we used to?
I moved to Glasgow because I'm like a pathetic suck up for the chat. Like, you have no idea how much I crave the chat. Like, in London, no one chats. Up here, I'm just sat at the bus stop, like, eager. Waiting for an old man to sit next to me so I could be like, tell me about Red Clydeside. Do you know Jimmy Reed? I love it. And do you know what I feel?
You still going to the socialist bus stop?
I love it too much, and I feel like I'm aspiring to be a position in Glasgow which is a wee soul, which I know is not a compliment. I know it's not a compliment.
It is.
But all I want is like for 60-year-old women called Leslie to be like, oh, she's a wee soul. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Carol.
Obviously, we're talking about this maybe inability anymore to talk to strangers, but what is the best thing a stranger has ever told you? Gareth?
I was at a bus stop once, and I have ginger hair, and a lady said to me, do you know ginger people are going to be extinct in 30 years? And it was the most threatening thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
That's a direct death threat right there. Sam, what about you? What's the best thing a stranger's ever told you?
Well, okay, it's more what they responded when I said something to them. Have you ever done that thing where you think you see a friend, like someone's facing away from you, and you're sure it's them, so you go up to them and sort of like jump scare them for a bit of a laugh, and then they turn around and it's not them? That happened to me. I jump scared this guy because I thought he was my friend, and then he turned around and it wasn't my friend. And instead of saying something normal like, oh, I'm so sorry, I thought you were somebody else, I said to him, you're not the man I thought you were, which just sounds like a sudden dressing down. And he looked down at the floor and went, do you know what? I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, the struggle to engage in small talk is, of course, the right answer. 2 points go to Ria and Gareth. You're listening to Breaking the News from BBC Radio Scotland with me, Des Clark. Now, this round is all about who's in the news. I will play you a clip of a mystery person. All you have to do is tell me who it is. So, Ria and Gareth, you're up first this time. Who is this?
My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I've become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
That is President Joe Biden.
Yes, President Biden and former President Donald Trump are set to face off this week in the first presidential debate of the cycle. At the time of recording, they haven't gone head-to-head yet, but it is expected to be an unusual debate as it breaks with campaign tradition. The debate will be moderated by CNN anchors Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. Of course, in Glasgow, a Jake Tapper is somebody who asks a drunk guy for a fiver. Different cultures. There we go.
Donald Trump is back. Back in full force. He has demanded that Joe Biden takes a drug test before the debate in case he uses any performance-enhancing drugs. Which is amazing. It's so good. I think it's really rich, you know, that Trump keeps calling Biden old, but there's literally only 3 years between them. It's like me calling Ed Sheeran pale. So weird. I'm
Shocking behaviour.
Yeah.
I love the fact if they do a drug test, Biden, sorry, Mr. Biden, you've tested positive for Gaviscon.
I heard that they were doing mock debates.
Yeah.
And that Biden had gone to Camp David to practice mock debates. And as a previous teen debater, I just so hope they did it alongside 14-year-olds.
I think the problem with having Biden debate 14-year-olds is that he'd be over-prepared to then debate Trump.
When you look at the candidates, and they are as old as they are, you look at them and you think of your grandparents trying to run a country. So I think of my grandmother, and I just think of the last time that I was around hers. She has one of those things where you can pause live TV, but she doesn't do it when she goes to the toilet because, and I quote, she doesn't want to hold everyone else watching up. Like, bless her,
That's
but
so
please don't
sweet.
give her the codes to the nuclear warheads.
It's so sweet, though. That is lovely. But imagine that you were there in the middle of Biden and Trump. If you were the debate moderator, what question would you ask both of them and why?
Well, to Trump, I would say, if you were elected, how would you preside from prison? Would they put you in an oval cell? And to Biden, I would say, over here, Joe. Joe, over here, over here. Follow the sound of my voice. Right. That's it, that's it.
I love that. Yes, during the debate, the candidates' mics will be muted whilst the other is talking, which is good news for Trump, who for once won't have to pay $130,000 to keep somebody quiet. Yes, well done. 2 points go to Rhea and Gareth. That was, of course, President Joe Biden. Right, Josie and Sam, it's your turn now. Who is this and why are they in the news?
My mother did not have to instill the passion. I was obsessed with music. I was self-taught. I would listen and re-listen. I taught myself how to write a song.
I believe that's the voice of one Shania Twain.
That is the right answer. That's a great shout. Yes, Shania Twain has said that she hopes to pull off a first by riding a horse to the Pyramid stage on Sunday ahead of her tea time set at Glastonbury. The singer says she's a little overwhelmed at the idea of following in the musical footsteps of Dolly Parton and Diana Ross by playing Glastonbury's Legends slot.
Love Shania, absolutely love Shania, although I think I get particularly scared whenever 3 words are said by Shania Twain, and that is, let's go, girls, because every woman in wherever you are will suddenly go feral, and you have to take cover.
I was looking at who else has played the Legends stage, and the only person who's done it twice is Tom Jones. Did it first in 1992, came back a second time. He wasn't even booked. He just showed up. And that's a real threat. I feel like Tom Jones could attack at any time. She's showing up on that horse, she's ready, and then straight away he's out in front of her. Why? And we know from fact she won't be impressed.
No. I love that. He could pounce at any point.
He can pounce at any time. He's poised.
Oh, wow. It could happen. We'll be watching with bated breath.
I have an issue with what the connotations are of being asked to do the Legends stage, because it means that you're over a certain age. They've basically gone, congratulations! You were old enough and forgotten enough by enough of the young people to only play this stage on this Sunday in the afternoon, because your fans will be asleep by 4. Keep it real. Keep it
Yeah,
real.
absolutely, an accurate description. Josie, obviously we're talking about Shania Twain. She wants to ride on stage onto Glastonbury on a horse. Could you tell us about your best entrance?
So the first time I gave birth, I went in and I was so convinced that I was about to pop. I've been like labouring for 36 hours, right? So convinced I was about to pop. I walked in there like, yeah. And then they examined me and they were like, you're 2 centimetres dilated, which is nothing. And so what they made me do was they made me wait in the waiting room for ages, yeah. And what they were showing in the waiting room was a documentary, which was footage of the Queen trying on all her many crowns and laughing. And honestly, if you know me, that's absolutely going to push my buttons. And so by the time I got into the suite, I was just like, she stole those jewels! And that was how my beautiful baby was born.
A lovely story. I love that. Shania Twain does indeed hope to pull off a Glastonbury first by riding a horse onto the Pyramid stage on Sunday. Animal rights groups are worried that the horse might get injured, but festival regulars reassured them that in an emergency, they'd know exactly where to find ketamine. Country star Shania Twain is the right answer, and 2 points go to Josie and Sam. And it's time now for our final quickfire round, which is all about deciphering the numbers in the news. I will read out a headline. All the teams have to do is fill in the blanks. So get ready, teams. When we run out of time, you'll hear this.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That is the BBC's Chris Mason there, obviously checking his winnings. Right, fingers and buzzers, here we go. 1 in 10 adults think that what counts as part of their 5 a day? Josie.
Is it telling people they're vegan?
Should be. It's not that. Something else from the news this week. Fingers back and buzzers. 1 in 10 adults think that what counts as part of their 5 a day? Sam.
Is it wearing T-shirts made by Fruit of the Loom?
Genius. Keep it going. These are great. 1 in 10 adults think that what counts as part of their 5 a day? Gareth.
The garnish in their gin and tonic.
That actually does count. 1 in 10 adults think that what counts as part of their 5 a day? Ria.
Cocaine. It's plant-based.
I'm healthier than I thought,
actually. The answer is that 1 in 10 adults think that ketchup counts as part of their 5 a day.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh, that's a klaxon. Chris has masoned. It means it's all over. And at the end of the quiz, our winners this week are Josie Long and Sam Lake. And commiserations to Ria Lina and Gareth Wall. And we'll leave you with the breaking the news. Breaking news just in. I'm being told that the producer of Breaking the News has just won £2,000 in the outcome of the show and is now being investigated. Tens of thousands of native trees have been planted on a Sutherland estate as part of a wild fish conservation project. Though the project organisers have been praised for their environmental efforts, nobody has yet had the heart to tell them that fish don't live in trees. The University of Glasgow is celebrating the 200th anniversary of the birth of one of the most famous and renowned scientists. Lord Kelvin first identified the temperature called absolute zero, or as it's also known, summer in Largs. And Scotland are out of the Euros after finishing bottom of Group A with only 1 point from 3 games. The results have left the Tartan Army to head home devastated, none more so than that one wee guy who faces a 1,000-mile walk back to Paisley. The news is broken. I've been Des Clark. Goodbye!
Election time. Don't vote for these felons. Oh gosh. At election time. Don't vote for these felons. Honestly, they're an absolute disgrace.